is really, the cutscenes are kind of specifically for a scene. From the storyboards we start straight away and trying to recreate comic book frames and compositions. And everything we do for the cutscenes is very specific to the shot. We tend not to reuse too much, and with having the studio right next to us, it's very easy just to go in and kind of capture things that we want. Then we obviously process them, see if they work in the scene, and continue to work on them until they're right.
We actually worked on the cinematics for a good 6 months. I think that we became more focused as we moved on with the score.
And we kind of work in layers, so first you've got your basic visuals, and then when the sound and the sound effects and all the music and everything comes into play, that's when it really starts to be something that you've hoped for from the beginning.
We had to produce not only, it wasn't only double the amount of animation that we would have had in previous titles, it's probably 10 times more, and the quality bar has really gone up now.
There's a clear difference between in-game and cutscene animations. The cutscene team have to animate to the camera so they can accentuate key poses, silhouettes, and make it all work just for the camera angle, whereas in-game it's more about making it work as a whole so the player can see it from all different angles, so you need to make sure that you animate every single part of the body. With us, we don't have much time to do anticipation moves. If he needs to jump somewhere, it does need to be instantaneous. He can't have a long anticipation and then jump, because it has to be quite responsive for the player. He needs to be able to press the button, it needs to happen straight away. So we've got quite a big challenge there.
When we started the project, that we wanted quality to be paramount. It had to be paramount because people love the characters.
We wanted to do something that took from every great visual interpretation of Batman. So even though it doesn't look a lot like Bob Kane, you might see a little bit of a hint or a throwback to him. It isn't solely the Wildstorm look. There's a little bit of Neil Adams in there. There's a little bit of Frank Miller. We just wanted to get something that gave the coolest visual interpretation of Batman and his enemies.
Also with Batman, in effect, he was two characters. The first character being Batman himself, his body, but also his cape for us was basically treated as another character.
The cape is obviously a big signature part of Batman.
In the comic books and the graphic novels, the cape is used to almost define a mood in a way, and it almost has its own character.
We wanted our cape to do that, which was like a major time investment for us to get that to work.
It's been quite a long slog for the cape. It's quite a technical thing to get right,
but we're really happy with how it worked out. Also with the cape, we wanted it to chart Batman's journey through the game. So when he had key encounters, we wanted him to, like for example, if he was to have a fight with Croc, then Croc would damage his cape in some way, and that would constantly remind the person playing the game of their journey and what they've been through to get to the end of the game. If you're going to make DC characters, then you have to give them, weeks and weeks. So we'd probably spend anything up to 6 to 8 weeks on a big, serious character. You'll work from the 2D image, but you'll actually end up with something that is different and hopefully gives more back.
Harlequin, who's kind of almost a young, athletic kind of character. We have to use the motion to get this across.
Our Joker is a little different. He's more dancing and more prancing around. He'll hop around and make really exaggerated expressions and stuff.
With the combat system in Batman, we really went back to basics and tried a lot of different things because we really wanted to get that feel of being a superhero. It's really important to us that when you pick up the pad, Batman, if he's taking 4, 5, 6 henchmen on, he doesn't have a lot of trouble. I mean, he's a highly trained martial artist, so we really wanted the player to feel that power. So the skill in the game really comes from when you're taking on 8, 9, 10 enemies, one with a taser, one with a machine gun, one with a pipe he's ripped off the wall, and balancing that danger in the room. When we looked at how Batman would take down a number of armed enemies, we really the standard route to go would be to introduce a sort of stealth mechanic, but we thought that would make Batman feel really weak and scared of the enemies, and that's not what Batman is. He's a predator. He preys on these enemies and he preys on the fear of these enemies. We looked at introducing what we called the invisible predator mechanic. Now this mechanic allows Batman to move around in the rafters of a building without the enemies even knowing he's there, and he can study where they're moving and choose when and how to take them down, and that whole kind of preparedness of Batman is a really important part of his character as well.
It's
it's a mix of mock-up animation and more kind of like traditional hand-animated animations.
Motion capture gives you a realistic experience. With hand animation, you can get more of an emphasis on key poses, even in the sky. You still need to stylize the poses in the air, and that's where hand animation is always useful. The main villains are mainly hand animated because we want to capture that abstract feeling. People like Harley are acrobatic people, so we have to bring a gymnast, do all the gymnastic moves like walkovers, flips, jumps, cartwheels, all sorts of things that nobody here can obviously do.
Well, we find that animators are actually very good at producing the results they want to. No matter how good an animator you are, it's that subtlety that really takes the time. In games production, we don't have the luxury all the time of really spending a lot of time on the animation. So, you know, the ambient stuff we have in the background is looking absolutely fantastic now. This is our very own in-house motion capture studio. We're really lucky to have it. What we do is, after we've planned our moves, we get a guy into the suit and we cover him in these little shiny dots here, and we do a lot of calibration to make sure that the software understands the size and shape of his body, and then we're pretty much, you know, after initial setup, ready to start capturing.
I mean, I think the main kind of areas in which the AI really challenges you in this game is in the predator rooms, where you're having to kind of work out how to pick them off, how to take them out without being seen, how to create that level of fear in them. And, you know, as the game progresses, obviously the kind of challenge ramps up. This is the designer's main tool, this program, and this is how they put together levels, how they slot together the building blocks of the level, basically. See whether the level's set up properly to allow the characters to move around. So that's more to do with the geometry of the level, how the physical kind of layout of the level, but this is to do with the events in a level, you know, what happens and what order things happen within that level. So this is what the designer would use in order to say, you know, create this character now, make him run over there, make him say this, make him attack that.